Hey everybody, welcome to the Jen Lowry Writes YouTube channel. Today I'm trying out StreamYard. So as you can see, powered by StreamYard up here. So I'm learning all of this little banner stuff, really like it. Always good for authors to try new things. And while I'm out going to these events and these webinars, I'm starting to notice the little logos and the business logos there. And I'm like, let me go and try different ones. So this is my second attempt for StreamYard. So if I mess up, I'm so sorry. If I don't see your comments or all of that good stuff, I'm going to be in the zone, and I'm also going to be in a screen share in just a second. I wanted to talk with you guys about the reasons behind my why and why I'm even doing webinars, or what I like to call workshops, to begin with. And then I wanted to share with you how I'm setting all of these things up. Now, I do not want to let you think for 1 minute that I know the secrets of webinar organization. I'm just going to tell you, after researching and trying it out, I've already had 2 successful webinars. I want to talk with you about those and what I learned too. So just get a notebook, get ready. You can pause the video at any time and start writing down some of the resources that I'm going to give to you. And then if you have even better ones, please put them in the comments. And if you can't comment because I'm a kid-friendly channel, then just go on and email me, jenlowrywrites@gmail.com. I will put my email in the description, so that way you can say, look, you are missing out on this platform, or you're missing out on this tool if you're doing webinars. So you can just really help add value to my life too. So I'll share with my why first. Well, I am not the person that can budget for really expensive courses and all of that jazz. And I found Author Central last year. I love Author Central. I can share with you another day, like some of the ones that I went to and what I loved about them. But one, they're free, the ones that I did sign up for. And I was able to join in with best-selling authors and actually look at some things that I had a weakness in, like promoting your book, book marketing 101 kind of things. So I really started looking through free events last year. So I've been going to quite a few of events over the course of the past year, just really learning. There is not a day that goes by that I don't learn something new, whether it is in the indie publishing lane or if it's in my traditional publishing lane. I'm always open to learning and then sharing out. And so that's another purpose of my why. Because I've been self-publishing for so long, and because I have a platform that I feel like I can use to help other authors, why not do webinars? You know, it just makes perfect sense. I can find new people that are out there that might be on Eventbrite, that might see the events popping up and say, hey, this is free, let me go check her out. And then that could also connect me with new writers, which I always love. I always love building the author community. But more important than just connecting me with people, I've done a lot of research. That's that research brain of mine. I always say that my doctorate degree, receiving that was one of my greatest gifts to myself, not only because that was on my bucket list, but because it really put me in that research mode mindset. And I was constantly researching. So now I'm constantly doing that for my author life and adapting and trying new things. And I love to share. I love to tell people, like, oh, have you thought of this? Or have you tried this? Or what do you have? What do you let me know? And so that open line of communication is just who I am. And having the webinars is just an extension of this YouTube channel and the podcast that I hold. You know, I've made over 600 episodes. I have over 300 videos on YouTube, and they're all because I want to share out a message. There's this message I've got, this author journey I'm doing, and I want to share it. So webinars are the next step for me. So I want to tell you first, the first thing that I did is I wanted to find out, how could I go about organizing events for tickets? And then what platform could I use? So one of my friends was holding a webinar with her business, and she sent me this Eventbrite link. And I was like, okay, so maybe this is where I'm supposed to go with this. I will tell you, I love Eventbrite. You may have another hosting site that does tickets, but I just find this to be very easy to use, and it is accessible. And I know this because one of my dear friends was able to get on and order tickets, organize her own events, create her own accounts and everything. So it is an accessible platform. I'm going to come over and show you. I'm going to screen share first. So wait, let me go back on the screen share. Okay. All right. So now I'm screen sharing for you so I can kind of talk you through my stuff. I'm a visual person. I like to show. This is my Eventbrite. Now, this is my landing page for Eventbrite. I did not have any of this up at the beginning. One, I did not change the color. It was gray, but you guys know that a part of like branding is what is like her color, her signature color, or, you know, what is her aesthetics and all of her things. And purple's my color for many reasons. But I also have my own business. And so when you see Monarch Educational Services on my work, then you know that this is coming from the business side, the business angle. I did not have a bio at the very beginning. For my first Eventbrite, I just had my picture up there and Monarch. So then I had someone question a very snarky remark, and this is a true story. I'm not going to get down into the rabbit hole of negativity here, but someone questioned who gives her the right to be able to hold a webinar. Well, I don't have to explain myself to anybody, do I? Just don't go. And I actually have a doctorate degree in organizational leadership, which I think does qualify me as a leader and someone who actually knows what they're talking about, especially with something like Author Life, because this has been my lane for a long time. Not only that, I'm a 20-year educator, and I am in an administrative role, and I give professional development all the time. So not only am I on teams with planning, but I have given it at the district level, I've given it at the school-based level, but I have done national speaking engagements across the United States. But do I have to go in and give a stranger my entire resume? No, just, you know, that person, just don't ever come to my things because I don't want your negative energy there. Don't crush it. But I felt like, well, maybe I do need to put my bio up there. So I went in and I edited my organization homepage. So there we go. That's what you're going to see. And then, of course, I've already had 2 past events. So my first event that I set up, it was how to host a successful virtual book launch. And I'm going to tell you why I did that. I'm going to flip on over to the actual PowerPoint for that. Well, the Google slide for that. I actually held this because a dear sweet author friend emailed me and said, I have been following you all day on Brinkley. I've been watching what you're doing online, and I want to do that. I want to know what you're doing. What is your thoughts about it, and how are you setting all this stuff up? And she was talking about my promotion for Brinkley. So I was like, okay, well, I can meet with you on Zoom because it's not like I can meet with you right now at the coffee shop. And so she was like, well, can we invite someone else? And I'm like, okay, so sure. And then because of that, and that this lady reached out to me, the webinars were born. And that was my first webinar. Okay, so I set everything up. I do not record my webinars for privacy reasons. And I also want the attendees to feel very comfortable in there where they can ask these questions. And, if they say, well, this or that or the other, and they might have a pen name, but it's not showing up or whatever, I just want everything to be private. So I do release my slides at the end, but I do not do any type of recording. And then I always tell the people, if you guys want to meet with me later, we can always do that, or you can jump in on another webinar. And so I actually do have someone that has registered for all of my webinars after the first one that they attended, which tells me good success rate. And I had wonderful reviews after in emails. So going back to that's the reason why I started it to begin with. And like I said, it's just a natural thing for me to do, to be able to share. And this is a great platform to do it. So I'm going to show you. So those two past events that I had, the first one, I did not give a workshop guide. It was just, okay, we're meeting together, and I taught. It was complete teaching, and I was really modeling after what I had seen in these author free events, where the person got up and they talked, and then at the very end, they opened it up for Q&A. So my chat was amazing during the webinar. And so just like right now, even with StreamYard, or if I'm using Zoom, when I'm having a screen share, it pulls me away from the chat. So I'm not actually able to see that. And I did not have a moderator. I had a second computer sitting up. I called myself, I opened it up, I joined the meeting. I renamed myself so I wouldn't have two Jen Lowry Wrights on there. And I had moderator written. That way, just in case I had something to happen with computer number one, I had computer number two on standby. I could just move it over. I would suggest that if you have that battle station opportunity to set yourself up, and I'm going to go ahead and plug mine in now. If you have a battle station type opportunity to do that, please do that just in case something happens. Always plug your computer in too. We learned that last week when I was with another friend whose computer died. So I also was in teaching mode. And when I'm in teaching mode, I'm all carried away. And I'm looking at the screens and I'm talking through my slides. But the chat was hundreds, people messaging. And so I missed the opportunity to pause. So when I went back in and I did my second event on podcasting, that one I actually built in Q&A. So I'm going to go back over and show you the author podcast 101. When I built my slides, I actually went in. So see these right here, the Q&As, the Let's Chat. Excuse me. The Let's Chat button is really a symbol for me to say, slow down, Jennifer. You really need to stop and you need to pause and you need to go back and see what's happening over there in the chat. Like I just paused down. I went back over just to remind me to see if anybody was viewing or on yet. The good thing about making Facebook Lives or making YouTube Lives is these things bank. So whenever you're joining, you can still get, you don't have to be like right here with me live. They're going to bank on my page, hopefully. We shall find out with StreamYard. So the Q&A to me was really important. The same way for me that I'm doing the event tomorrow. So I have an event tomorrow, which is going to be May 27th at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Time. And I built I'd have 2 slides and then a Q&A. And then I would have two to three slides and then a Q&A. Because I really enjoyed that. I got great feedback after. I actually had some of my WWJs. These are my Writing Warriors for Jesus. These are my Patreon ladies. I had some of my WWJs in the meeting with me learning about podcasting. And so then afterwards, we had an evaluation team meeting. And they critiqued and they talked about the things that they loved. And the one thing that constantly was standing out to them as positives was, and it was like uniform, was that they loved the Q&A. They loved how personal it felt. Like it was just us hanging out, talking. And so that's really how I want it all to be. So I made sure, then I built for tomorrow the Self-Publishing 101 Q&A. I made sure that I build it as a Q&A. So it was based on questions that I have received over the years about how do you get started in the industry and all of that. And then I built it out with us to then break away and talk through it. So the first one that I did, that how to host that successful virtual book launch, I did not have any type of guide to go along with it. But then I was like, you know what? People were asking some really good questions, and I could have had a framework. I could have had a note-taking sheet or something. So I really brainstormed what would someone want, but what was really closely tied into the way that I've also branded myself. Well, I'm a challenge person. And if you've bought any of my nonfiction books, then you know there's a lot of journaling and reflective practice going on in there. And so I felt what better way than to create a journal with journal prompts for my viewers to be able to take. If they could start journaling prior to the event, they could come back and then they could have their written progress down. They could have their notes. So I decided that creating these journals would be beautiful, wonderful for them to have. And they don't need to print them out. Like, guys, I carry my journal around with me all the time. So you can have that PDF like right there and just use those prompts. People can follow along. Same way with my mom challenge, everyday mom challenge, or one of my journal books. They could get the ebook and have the same exact experience. You don't need it all to write in. So I would not say for people to go out, and print all these guides out. But if they wanted to, they could. So I kind of, reflected on some things about that, how to host a successful virtual book launch. I was like, I need Q&As, all throughout. I need to really check in with my chat because I don't have like a paid moderator in the room with me that helps me manage that stuff. And then I need to give them a guide. And so that's what I worked on when I went for Author Podcasting 101. I'm going to go back to Eventbrite and say, because the 2 events were very successful, I went ahead and started building more events. Now, one of my friends contacted me and she was like, go and look what authors are doing out in the author community. When they are an expert in certain areas, they will recycle that material, because what if somebody couldn't get it the first time? You need to be able to offer this stuff again, Jen, because I really wanted to go, but I was in a meeting and I want to go. So I'm giving you this advice because I want to go to your next webinar, which I was like, okay, I'll take your advice. And because you're so wanting to do this, maybe somebody else will actually want to do this. So here's what's really cool about Eventbrite. You can go over to the right-hand side when you're in your event page piece, when you're doing your organizing your events, and you can click and hit copy. So when you copy, you rename. You've got pretty much everything set up the way you want. You just have to change the date, change your images. And I'm going to talk to you guys about that too. But as you can see, I've got Self-Publishing 101 tomorrow. But then I've got this book launch one again. Now, this one is newer. This one came because I got an email from a podcast listener. And they were talking about authentic engagement and how they're struggling with their platforms online. And they really want to connect with people. And what could I suggest? Because they feel so connected to me and I'm a stranger, but they know they could trust not only my advice, they know that I'm researching, they know that I'm credible, but they also say that they feel comfortable with me. They want to do that same thing. And so this was the Engaging with Readers. It's kind of like a Dear Readers seminar. So I added that one in just recently because you can see I kind of changed it up because this is away from kind of like a 101 kind of thing, more about seminar. So there's that one. And then I'm pulling out Self-Publishing 101 again. And then there goes Author Podcast 101. And I'm back to Engaging with Readers. And I'm done after the 29th. It's my last one. So I'll tell you about the reason why I stopped there. And I had to start telling people no. Because I had someone while I was I wasn't moderating, I was a guest in there, but they were like, well, can you hold one? Can you do one? And I was like, you'd have to click in to my Eventbrites that I already have. So after July 29th, I'm saying no to the webinars right now because I have a huge free virtual writers conference that's going to be on August the 22nd that I'm organizing with my WWJs. And I am leading those efforts, and I really need that time to pray, to organize, to keep everything together. And I don't want to start adding additional webinars there, even if it's recycled things, because it does take time. I'll talk to you about what takes time about the webinars. But I do not want to add anything in my plate in August. Teachers start back to work a little earlier in North Carolina this year, so I've already got my calendar. I know that I'm going to really be supporting teachers when we get back to work. That's always a very busy time for me in my coaching role. So I would rather not put anything extra on my plate. And that's where I want you to feel good about being able to look at your calendar and say yes when you can and no when you can't, and do not have guilt associated with that no. Not to say that after everything kind of calms itself down a little bit later in the fall of the year, would I go back in and hold another podcasting one, or would I hold another engagement piece or something? I may, or if readers, or if some of my podcast listeners, if they start reaching out to me going for specific things, and I start seeing a large thread of those questions, and it's warranted that I do take the time to do that, then I may later. But July 29th, that's it. It takes time to build these things too. I'm not going to also burn myself out. I have other things that I'm doing. I'm doing virtual meetings with my WWJs every single week in Patreon. And so then again, if people want to find me outside of the webinars, then they have my Facebook private groups. They have my WWJ group on Patreon that they can come in. And I just made a video that lasted over an hour yesterday in practicing StreamYard. But I made a video trying to practice it on Facebook Live to my WWJs, teaching them about color coding techniques, teaching them about the roller coaster method that I use. I've talked about it on the podcast, but I did all the visuals and I went into everything. But that's my private WWJ group. That's my behind the scenes people. And in the middle of it, one of my WWJs said, you need to do a webinar on this. You need to. This topic is amazing. And I'm like, no, because some things need to be just for the WWJs. That's the point of having the Patreon group and the tiers too. So I had to say no, but I gave my reasons why. So, when you're scheduling these things out, also take into consideration time zones. So you see how this one's at 3:00. Then I'm moving over here. I'm having the same topic, but I'm having it at 7. So that can help me generate with different people's schedules. So I'm holding some at 7, as you can see for these. I'm holding, there's 7. Oh, that one's at 3. So it's almost like 3 and 7 are really good hit times for people. I have quite a few people for tomorrow scheduled. Now, I cannot invite more than 100 people into my rooms. And I'm going to talk to you about that. I bet you've already figured it out. I use Zoom. Now, I was doing the free plan, which only gave me 45 minutes. And you guys know I love to talk a lot. I say it all the time. I even have a shirt. I can talk about Jesus and writing all day. I will tell you that having that 40 minutes and then it would cut me off, it would just be, no, this can't happen. I can't do that, because what if somebody has a question, or I've got to extend it. And so during the middle of a boot camp session with WWJs, I was like, okay, I'm doing it, guys. I'm moving up. I'm going pro. And I moved to the pro, but because I have the pro version of Zoom, and you see I'm using Zoom, all the time, it does allow me to have an unlimited amount of time in the room. But I'm not buying the webinar yet. I haven't needed it. It hasn't been any problem, or there was not a distraction. Because I'm in Zoom Pro, it does pretty much what I need. The webinar would have looked a lot different. It would look cleaner and more streamlined, like an official webinar. But I'm calling mine a workshop. So when you come into that room, you have the chat there. I do make it to where, I can cut off your mic. I can kick people. If something happens, if somebody jumps into that Zoom room, I can do all of that work. The same way, I'm sure, if you could have it with a webinar. It's just I have not moved up in that price range yet because I'm an author on a budget. And I like to do things not only the easiest way possible, but the least expensive way. So that way I can use my money on other things, like buying book boxes for an event or something like that. So let's just put it this way. I've had 2 events. Not a single person said, why aren't you using, what's another one? Oh, I wrote some down when I was researching in my notes, but why aren't you using this such and such platform, or why aren't you using that platform? And nobody emailed me after it was over saying I didn't like being in your Zoom room. Everybody was so appreciative that they were in that Zoom room and hanging out together and having fun with other authors and just talking about author life. So that doesn't bother me a bit, and it didn't bother my attendees. Now, in the future, I will say that if I have an opportunity to continue to scale up and up and up, the guys, that I will. That'll be stuff that I do step by step. I was free on Zoom forever and a day. And now I just moved up to this pro. And so I do things in steps. And then I want to talk to other people and say, no excuses. You can do these things. Even if you do the free, you can have 30 minutes, have a timer going off, and then you can go from 30 to 40 minutes and have questions. And then if we don't get to your questions after the 40 minutes, I'm sorry, but that will be the end of the webinar for the sake of protecting your time. And you can email me and wave bye. Do your closing out. Because it could be in the middle of somebody asking a question and your 40 minutes go up and it'd be like, what happened there? And so that's a tip if you do want to do these for free. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about how much I love Eventbrite. Oh, look, I just put it up on Instagram. You can connect to your Facebook. You can connect to your Twitter, which I think is really cool because it gives an opportunity for, if somebody finds you on Eventbrite, they can find you there. I've got my email up here. People can contact me, all of that. So now I'm going to close out of Eventbrite. Super easy to set it up, and it's free because I'm charging nothing. So it is free. Now, if you are doing free events, there are different levels. And one of my friends does paid events. She is in a business, and her business partners are doing fabulous webinars. They are getting extremely high ratings, and she is charging with her group. Okay. But that means that there is a processing fee for the Eventbrite ticket sales. So you do need to read the fine print, and you need to determine based on the percentages which plan you want to go with. And so that's important for you as a business practice as well. So you can evaluate those different ones and see what's right for you, because it will automatically set you up like into one if you do the paid. But if you want to go for a lower percent, then you've got to read the 2 and then say, oh, I want to go to this other one. And then you would have to select it. So just pay attention to that. But I am not an expert on those because I'm doing free. Now, after reviewing Eventbrite, I did notice where people take donations. And so I did set mine up as a donation site. If anybody wanted to donate to the calls, if they said, wow, this was really informative, she should have charged, I want to help this lady out, they can donate for future events. So I did open that donation up. And in my first event, I just had my picture up there. I did not create any of these banners at all. And I made them on Canva. You know how much I love Canva. You can go back and look at previous videos that I've made that show you how I use Canva for pretty much everything in my author life. And so I went in, made these, and kept the same for my 101s, my introductory ones. They're all that same kind of purple. I just went in and hit copy, copy, copy on Canva. I want to show you how to do that in a minute. And I just changed the dates. But then when I had a different feel, then I moved away from that to separate myself in that long line. So people would say, oh, wait, that's something different. Another thing that I hope that you notice is that I added cross. So if you saw just my picture in that past event, the first one, the book launch, I did not put that I was a Christian author. I did not put that I have a Christian platform. I was like, wait, if somebody gets in here, they do need to know I'm going to talk about Jesus because that's just what I talk about. Can't help it. Don't ever want to change that. So I felt like on my banners, it needed to reflect that, I'm a Christian author. And I found that cross with the roses. And I was like, oh, look, it matches. It kind of matches my author profile picture that my husband took in a very special place, in my home place. And he took it for me. I love that author photo just because of where my feet are planted. But I'm talking about something else. But I felt like if somebody saw that, then they would know I'm a Christian author. And that's it from the very beginning. I do talk about that in my bio at the beginning too. But I felt like people could see that and they would know. I also added it in my blog, in my bio. I just got out of a very long work meeting, so I added in my bio as well, because I told you my first events, I didn't have the bios up. So go on to Eventbrite. You can find me and follow me there, and then join in on one of the any of the Eventbrite events that I have scheduled, any of the workshops. If you find like it could bring value for you, or if you would just like to come hang out and use the webinar as a model. Because that's what I've been doing. I've been taking a bunch of these things. They're free right now, a lot of them. The ones that are paid, like the fancy master classes, I wish that I had the money to do that. I wish that I had the money to do the Skillshares and all the fancy ones. But right now, I'm getting a lot of tons of information and learning along the way from people that are out there giving back right now. And what better way can I do than to give back and share my own knowledge? So thanks to Miss Dot out there in the universe who asked me to share about book launches. This webinar circuit has been happening. Now, if I were, rewinding myself back to 2019, it's not that I wasn't ready to hold webinars. I still, I had enough knowledge to be able to do so. However, I was out doing events in person. I was doing speaking engagements in churches, and I was out in bookstores, book sign-ins, and coffee shops and festivals. And so last year, 2019, was pretty much a record year for me as far as me getting out there with my little introverted self. But in 2020, due to our current circumstances, it's like, okay, virtual is the way to go. So let me be able to go out and talk to people. What better way to share my story and to share how they can also tell their story, whether it's podcasting or promotion through engagement, or whether it's just how to self-publish that book, or what kind of considerations do I need to do before I decide, am I going to query or am I going to self-publish? Those are the ones for you. Okay, so that's just how things change. And so I'm showing you guys, because this might be something that you might have always wanted to do, but you just kind of didn't know how to set it up. So I set myself up in my Google Drive. I love my Google Drive, y'all. Cannot tell you how much. And I love Google Slides. So I'm going to share with you something that we use at work too, that one of my students actually showed me. Slides Carnival. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can get some really beautiful professional templates on Slides Carnival. Now, Google Slides themselves, they have done a very good job. And these aren't all, like, look up at the top, like, seriously, like, just the coolest things. Let's go inspirational. And these are free. So Google Slides has also made it very easy to be able to upload pictures now. They have actually a Google image search within the backdrop. So if you go to backgrounds and you do choose image, they actually have Google Drive that you could put pictures in there, photos, check it all out. But you can also do a Google image search. And so you can actually just go and hit podcast and go down and find one of these that you love. I used this one for my website. And they're free use images, the same one I found on Pixabay. You can do that as well. You can go to Pixabay. I love Pixabay. And you can download backdrops and you can put them up in here too. So it makes it very easy for you to have something unique that you're not just going over to the basic layouts that they do have on Google Slides. Now, I've never done it before, but I need to try it. Because I love Canva so much, you can make presentations and slideshows on Canva. I'm sure it would be super easy. Gotta just take some time and do it. But I love using Google Slides. I also will share out my slides at the end. And so it's really easy to share Google Slides. You can make it to where they can't download it or edit it, but they can view it. I'm fine with that. You know why? Because they could sit there and they could take screenshot pictures of all that information anyway. So they would technically have my slides. But why not make it easy for them? Because then they could use my slides. You know, over here is the make a copy. They could make a copy and then turn this presentation into their presentation by adding their uniqueness, just by going in here, changing the backgrounds, fixing everything, and they can have and build their own so they can use them as templates. I truly believe that authors, you know, it's not plagiarism. If you want to take mine, because I'm giving you permission, I am asking you to change it up, of course. I'm asking you to take my template, make a copy of it, but don't go around saying you're Dr. Jennifer Lowry, and really think about what would be your goals. But you could take this whole section out, and what goals would you want to work with your audience? But it could help you keep your flow going and say, oh, these are some things I could consider. But what if you don't want a Q&A right there? You just delete the Q&As. And so this is things that, you find your own quotes there. That would be a good time maybe to do a pause and do a quote talk. That's my favorite quote ever. Get used to that one if you hang out with me enough. That's why I usually have my wall up, but I didn't want to make a wall today. Didn't feel like building a brick wall. I was tired and I need coffee. So getting back to where I was, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I love Google Docs and I love Google Slides and all of that. So I also have built the workshops, a folder. Now I cannot show you the attendees. Now someone asked me, can you send me such and such email? They're in the chat and I really want to contact them. And I said, no, you cannot do that. You are not going to collect someone's email addresses and then share them out with anyone. You are using those email addresses for the sole purpose of why you got that email to begin with. And that is to send them the Zoom link and send them a thank you with the slides in it. Okay? If they want to go and sign up for your newsletter, then they can go to your website, which I actually revamped this week and have a little pop-up and all that little cool stuff. But I'm not going to automatically put them on a newsletter list unless they give me permission to do so. And I'm definitely not going to give out their email to anyone. So just always keep that in mind, just to protect the people that trust you in your group. So I'm going to just show you a practice sheet. I love using Google Sheets, and I know that it's pretty similar to Excel, but I like it because I can pull it up anywhere, fix it, and work. So I would pull from Eventbrite. I would actually pull their order email. Now, do you see this order notification? I get notified every time someone signs up, and it shows me their email. You can right-click it there, and then you can come over and you can paste it. It shows their name and their email. when is the first contact I made, when is the second one, and when is, I spelled that wrong, when is the third contact, which is my like last chance thing, who attended or not, giving them a follow-up email, and if maybe there are any notes. Because while I was there, I had this really sweetheart girl who said, look, I'm sorry I missed your book launch. And this was an author podcast. She said, can you please send me your book launch one? And I'm like, sure, of course I will. And so I went and I made notes about that. Another one said, while we were doing a Q&A, I would love to be able to join your newsletter. Can you go ahead and add me? And when that person said yes, I took that as a verbal agreement that they wanted to receive an email from me. They can always unsubscribe later, but I made notes of that. The follow-up email, I'm going to talk to you guys about that too. But I got it. But I think it's important that you think about these contacts here. So the first time I did an event, I did it as soon as someone would sign up. I'd send them a Zoom link. Then I sent it like 5 days before, and then I sent it on the day of. And then I was like, you know what? I have sent these people 3 emails. I think that's a little excessive. I really don't need to do that. So when I went from how to host a successful book launch and I went into Author Podcasting 101, I only sent 2 emails. And then I was like, yes, that's better. I'm not like crowding their box. And so for this time around, for the one that's tomorrow, I sent the emails today. I waited until today. It has the guide in it because a lot of the guide pieces in this one, it's really going to be later. There is a why portion. I have to put a why in everything. But there is, there's not a lot that they can do prior. So for the author podcasting though, it was. And so I sent that on the Friday before. So there was reasons behind my contacts. Definitely do not want to do 3 again, just because I don't want to hound somebody beforehand. The follow-up email I sent that very same day, and it included the Google slide in there and a thank you card that I built on Canva, which is kind of like my brand color and everything. And I thanked everybody from coming. So I had a JPEG image that would drop into the email just to make the email a little different. Now I did something with let me go back to, so for the author podcast, I used Wix shout out to send the email newsletter type thing. But for how to host a successful book launch, I didn't use Wix. For this one, Self-Publishing 101, I did not use Wix. Because I have that free account with Wix, I can only send 3 out a month. And it's at the end of the month, and I'd already sent out my personal email newsletters to my readers. I was like, okay, I don't want to mess that up. I want to keep doing that, because what happens when the new person pops in? Because I wasn't thinking that through, and my Eventbrite are open until tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Because I do have to have time to be able to send these emails out. I'm personally sending emails. I am not using the Eventbrite service. Now, I don't know if I'll do that again. Probably the next time, I will just use their service. For the author podcast, I used the service and just went through them and did the event emails. For this one, I wanted it to have a personal touch to it. So I went in and I handcrafted and I copy pasted the messages back and forth toggling between 2 screens. But it took me, honestly, 1 hour to do it. I clocked it. And I was like, okay, that is an hour that I should not have spent. So I regretted that hour decision-making process, because the bottom line, they need to get the Zoom link, right? So I just am deciding that for future events, I'm going to do the generated one that is free to send out these email invitations on Eventbrite. And I'm just going to add the link to the PDF. So let me talk to you about the PDF. I know I'm giving you a lot of things, but I really think this adds a special touch to it. How many of you have been to a workshop or a webinar and they say, I will send you a guide, that's worth $250 at the end of this, if you stick around and you get a special deal on it and you're only going to have to pay $29.99 to get the guide or something, you know what? I made the guides for free. They did not take long on Canva to do. And I do feel like they're an added touch, and it will allow people to go through some reflective practice. Now, I am a huge proponent of positive psychology and reflective practice and the PER model. So I will say, I'm going back to check anything. I will say that allowing someone to have that space there and to guide them through that space is an honor for me. So here is Canva. Love me some Canva. Okay, so I picked like a poster type size, paper size. And look, all you have to do is hit copy page. Come back here, take that off, go over to photos. And look, there's me one that I can use. I used it the other day. Put it in the background. Then I hit position backward. Oh, and I don't want it there. And then maybe I want to move this over a little bit. You see that? And then there goes, and I want to move that. And then I've got me like a new template. And so what I would do is I would come over here, because I already had the one template for the Author Podcast 101. It's just building a template to begin with. You get that one and you're done. You build the template, you come over and you hit make a copy, okay? And then you rename it. So this one was once the copy of Author Podcast 101. I renamed it. Then I just went in and changed the backgrounds. But if you were at my previous one, you received Dear Podcaster instead of Dear Author. And I just changed up the wording a little bit to reflect writing and author story instead of podcast. But I went in and found some new quotes, but kept some of the same. You know, there's my brick wall. I love Emily Dickinson, so I added her. And then here's like journal prompt, your why. Well, why do you want to write a book? Why? Let's talk that why. Because that why is going to be that motivation for you. And if you say, I want to get rich quick, that might not be a long sustaining career goal for you. I'm sure finances are a part of it. I am not going to be naive and say we should never talk finances in the author community. I think we don't talk about it enough. But I do think that we do have to have a deeper personal connection to why we would want to write that book. It could be to develop our businesses and to promote our businesses. If you have a nonprofit organization, for example, and you want to share your message of your organization, what better way than to collect an anthology of the stories of your people? I mean, seriously, so much that we can do with writing books today that has nothing to do with dollar signs. So, you know, that's one's very important to me, your why for everything. Because that's what's really your why, your mission, that's going to get you through the times when, you know, you might not get money coming in from it. Well, so why are you going to keep doing it? Well, you go back to your original why. And so that's the kind of like what the resource guide is. Okay, let me delete this page. But do you see how I just would go in and change the backgrounds really fast and fix that? It took me, I'm going to say, about an hour or hour and a half maybe to make Author Podcast 101. After I organized it, I matched it up with my slides. So everything was pretty much flowing the same way. I tried to keep the same aesthetic. And then when I moved over to Self-Publishing 101, I built my slides first and then built the guide next. I didn't do it simultaneously or anything. If you want to do that, that probably could save you time later, because you build slide 5 and you go over and you make page 5 in your that actually, see, I need to write that down. Go make because that actually sounded a lot better to me. Hi, see, I love the talk out method. I use talk alouds a lot. And so then when you go over here to download it, I make it a print PDF. I have a 23-page guide and it's free, and it's going to be given before the workshop. So that way, if somebody does not get a chance to attend the workshop, they get the guide. Okay, that's fine. It's about us sharing the information. And how many times have you signed up for something and you forgot about it, or you didn't go, or something else came up, or you got a business call, or you got something that's happening in your family and they become that priority? When I organize events, you know what, guys, I'm not looking at, oh, this person has let me down because my Eventbrite says I had 17 people coming to the event. Well, then that means tomorrow, if I only get 1 or 2 people, it's going to be a devastating thing. No, it's not. I'm just going to continue on because it was meant for that one person. And if I get into the room and nobody shows up because everybody else had things going on and things come up and there's emergencies and issues, or they just forget and they're watching The Mentalist, they're watching their favorite show or something, you know what? It's okay. It's not a reflection on me. It's just things happen in life. And so I have a pretty good mindset about stuff like that, and I think more people should too. Okay. So there's the practice sheet. You get a sneak peek on how I made the Google slides. Oh, that's for another one. I want to make sure that I talked about everything. I made the guide. I think that's pretty much, you can use these templates, which I love Slides Carnival. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. There is a Halloween one on here that I use for work. Okay, I'm digressing a little bit. You're going to get me start talking about my favorite holiday. Look at that. Look. See this one right here? I use this one for work. Because we did an escape room, and I taught the teachers with a friend on how to run escape rooms at work. Now, guys, I'm telling you, I love this template. In the future, I might just go with this template just because it makes me happy. Like, really, I love that one too. So now I got to decide. This one is new. Look at that baby Freddy Krueger. Decisions. Oh, look at that one, and it's purple. Okay. You see me? You come to my next webinars. You just might get something like that. Just because it's cool and I like it. And so that's the thing. When you have your own webinars, you can have your control, and it's okay if now I've got the idea to go in and do a Halloween one in the future. I just might. That's okay, especially if I'm doing one about any of my horror genre work. You never know what's going to happen next year. But my webinars are set, y'all. I've got everything done. I just have to do the Dear Reader one. That one is new. So I will spend time praying and reflecting over these other events because that is important. So I had a blog about that. You can go to my blog and you can read it. I also did a podcast if you would rather listen. But I'm going to stop the screen now. But, oh, I love my author people. Sorry, got distracted. I cut it off. But I did a blog and I did a podcast about the reflective practice that I went through after I did How to Host a Successful Book Launch. I think it's really important that anytime you hold an event, that you go through this metacognitive conversation with yourself and you say, self, let's talk and let's get real. And you can look at everything from the Eventbrite platform. What did you like or not like about it? What was something that you loved about the engagement that you might have had in the chat? Or what are some things you could do better? What are some things that you definitely need to drop? Stuff that you need to continue forward and advance your skill and learn more about it. Maybe you just are not as expert as you thought, and maybe you shouldn't have had that one, and maybe you should try a different one for a while. Or, but it's not about you saying, I don't need to ever do a webinar again because it messed up somewhere. It means I need to do another webinar in the future, but I need to work and I need to research and continue to practice my skills, and I need to find ways to better my knowledge base on a certain area, blah, 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 whatever it is. But that reflective practice is not to make you stop. Reflection is to help you grow. And grow is to continue in the walk that the Lord has set for you. And then you might say, well, what if during the reflection I say webinars are not for me? Don't let it be fear. Just let it be the realization that, one, you might need to just not do them right now, or two, then maybe you need to pick different topics, or three, you might need to practice doing Facebook Lives a little more or YouTube a little more before you start webinars again. There are so many different ways that a reflection can go, but stopping because you might have had one in the middle of it, then that is something that you need to reflect and grow from, not allow you, to shut down. So, for example, when I did that first webinar, I still got really good, positive reviews, but I talk about it to my WWJs all the time, try not to be a perfectionist or whatever. But when I realized, I didn't stop for Q&A the way I should have. I did it was more of a teaching seminar. It was really teaching heavy. And I also did not give them a guide. And I was like, there was a lot of notes. There were a lot of things. And then the end of the day, I had to say, but you know what? Their questions were answered. They received the information. I need to move on, and I need to find ways to reflect to better the situation and to ground myself in new ideas and new ways of doing things. And so that's why I changed it all up again. And so that's something that I want to encourage you guys to do, is to always understand that we are a work in progress. We have so much room to grow every single day. And it's a learning curve. Everything is. But you won't know until you do your first one. So I say do one. Send me an email, jenlowrywrites@gmail.com, and invite me to your next workshop or your next webinar. I like to call mine workshops because we get down with the notebooks and we're working and we're chatting and we're all about that life. And a long time ago, we would, we call it professional learning now. Used to be professional development. And then before, we used to say we're going to this teacher workshop. So y'all, I'm old. So we used to call that mess workshops back in the day. So I'm bringing that back. So, and then it reminds me that it's a little bit more informal if we're having a workshop instead of a webinar. It's semantics, I know. But anyway, we're English people. We can do that. Play around with that all day. So I just want to tell you guys that if you have been thinking about webinars, hopefully, or workshops, hopefully some of these things that I showed you today will give you the confidence to be able to go out and do one yourself. And then after, do that reflective practice. And if you need a guide on reflective practice, then of course you can go online and you can look up generated questions on how to help you with your reflective thinking. If you have not been coached through that process before, I coach my WWJs through that in boot camp. But if you don't have that in your repertoire, then go look at that blog article that I wrote and look at some of those questions that I answered for myself. And you'll say, okay, I see where she was kind of going with this. And then you can say, oh, I didn't do any of that stuff. Jen, you are a mess. And I will say, good for you. I'm so proud. Let me learn from you and send me an email. Tell me how it goes and tell me what platforms you might be using that I can expand not only my research and knowledge base, and I can just share it out with everybody else too, but that I can try some things out, just like I'm trying out StreamYard. So far, guys, I love this StreamYard stuff. I did one and completely messed it up. Didn't record it. I recorded, but it didn't share my screen. And it was a screen sharing for my WWJ's private group. Without that, there was no point in me having it because I was showing them all of these color things. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working. So I had to redo it again. I went from 40 minutes the first time. I went to an hour and something the second time. So I was like, okay, it worked. Now I'm trying it on YouTube Live. So hopefully the thing is there's no lag. You guys were able to follow along with the screen share. If you have problems, if there was a lag or anything and the quality was weird, just email me and let me know. I will say that these glasses, like the glasses glare, now it's so blurry. I have not had to use my readers. I had to use them last summer when I was constantly writing. And then I dropped them. I didn't need them anymore. But since we've been out of school since March 13th, and I have been all online virtual learning with my students and my staff, I have had to wear these for screen, for book reading, without them. I even told my husband I may be having to go for glasses soon. But so I know I'm getting the glare and things like that, but that's just part of life. I don't worry about that. I'm sitting here in my pajamas. And my daddy's army shirt, which I was like, why didn't I wear that yesterday? But anyway, so I hope that you guys have a blessed day. Thank you guys for joining me, and email me, let me know, and I'll talk with you guys later.